Hello, so today is a Perfume Empties video. If you haven't seen a Perfume Empties video before, they're basically an opportunity for people to review fragrances which they finished a bottle of. So by the time you finished a bottle of something, you probably have a really solidified view of whether you like that fragrance or not, and whether there's any little niggles of doubt about that being your forever fragrance or not as well. And I just find it really useful to review my thoughts on fragrances because you can learn from this in future. You can use this information to see the types of fragrance that you reach for often and the types of fragrance that you perhaps don't gravitate towards or you perhaps don't want to buy in future. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology even, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews and also fun perfume tags. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing. And please also like this video if you do like this kind of content. So another thing I want to add is if you do really love Perfume Empties, if you watch these all the time, I do have a Perfume Empties playlist and I will link that down below. I've got quite a few videos in that playlist now and I've got 9 different fragrances to talk about in this video. So let's get on with this. What's the first one that I finished? So the first one is Narciso Rodriguez Narciso Poudree. So this fragrance really has been one of my favourites and it's taken me a long time to finish this off. It's in a silvered bottle so you can never really see exactly how much you've got left, and actually there have been a few times when I thought this is finished and then I just move the bottle around and I can spray some more, but because you can't see the atomizer it's so annoying because you never know when you've got every last drop or whether there's some still there. So this one is a really soft pink feeling fragrance. I think really the colour of this bottle really perfectly mirrors what this smells like. It smells like a soft pink rose with some white florals and then this huge powdery enveloping musk as well with a bit of woodiness in the dry down. I think there's vetiver here and that's what's giving it that slight woodiness. I think this fragrance it really makes me think of someone in a pink cashmere jumper or perhaps a fluffy jumper who's giving you a hug. It's very enveloping, it's almost maternal, this fragrance, and perhaps that person's wearing some powdery makeup as well. It's that kind of vibe really. I wore this one a lot when I was teaching because I thought it was quite a maternal, welcoming, huggy kind of fragrance, and I thought people would be maybe happier asking me questions. I know that sounds ridiculous, but yeah, I thought about that when I was teaching. I thought about something that was approachable and something that wouldn't make me smell scary, for example. I think this one is just really nice for work because whilst it is quite an enveloping kind of musk fragrance, you definitely get a scent bubble with it. It's not too overwhelming. It's not too beast mode, but it is a long lasting fragrance. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this one. I think this is probably my favourite from the line. So before I finished this, I was debating whether to repurchase this and I just thought to myself, do you know what? You've been through quite a lot of this fragrance already. Maybe move on to something else in this line. So I ended up looking at the other ones in this line and I picked, in the end, Narciso Ambree. So this Narciso Ambree is basically a tropical floral version of the Narciso line. And I like it, but I don't like it as much as Poudree, which I find a little bit disappointing. But, summer's coming up. It's a time for tropical florals, isn't it? So I'm going to try it out this summer and see what I think to it. So that's Narciso Ambree, and the one I finished is Narciso Poudree. So the next fragrance is one that I was gifted by a subscriber, and she knew that I was looking for this fragrance and she knew that it was unavailable now in the UK. And I'd seen all these people talking about it in the US and I just really wanted to try it. And she actually sent me her partial bottle. I think it was about half full when she sent it to me. And I remember receiving it in December just before Christmas and just being so overwhelmed that she'd bothered to send me this fragrance along with some samples. It was really lovely of her. So this fragrance was actually given to me by Melanie, and thank you very much, Melanie. I've really enjoyed it. So this one is Azzaro's Wanted Girl by Night. So this fragrance, really, I would not think this fragrance would be me at all, but I absolutely loved it. So this is a really syrupy US grape kind of style fragrance. Often in the UK, we would use blackcurrant in the place of US grape, Concord grapes. We don't really have those here. They're kind of purple grapes that we have black grapes, we have white grapes. That's it. We don't have purple grapes. This is just a sweeter kind of grape, really. And this is a fragrance that really smells like the grapes are really syrupy, like they've been reduced with sugar and made into something almost like a lollipop or something like that, or some kind of, even a boozy, syrupy drink maybe, really thick, syrupy drink. This does have rum in it, I think, according to the listed notes. I wouldn't know what booze it was, but it does smell a little bit boozy to me. I don't really get any of the other things that are listed really in this fragrance. I think this one is just a very happy feeling fragrance for me. I think it takes me straight back to childhood. I think it makes me think of lollipops. It makes me think of ice lollies. It makes me think of the summer, even though this is a winter fragrance. It just is that kind of sweets kind of smell, really. I think this fragrance is pretty impossible to find in the UK, sadly, so I can't repurchase it. But I think if it were available, I might even get a travel spray of this. I really do like this one. It just makes me smile. This is actually really long lasting. It's really strong as well. And I did get a few compliments on this one. I think I get compliments on this one because it is just so strong. People can smell this on you. I got compliments with the original Wanted Girl as well. And I think this DNA is just really likeable, isn't it? It's really sweet and it's really easygoing. And other people just like this in the air. It just smells like food, basically. So that's Wanted Girl by Night by Azzaro. So the next fragrance is one that I won in a giveaway on Instagram, and I absolutely knew nothing about this brand, nothing about this fragrance, but I was really pleased to get to try it. So this one is Francesca Dell'Oro Fleurdenya. So this fragrance is one of those sunny feeling tropical floral fragrances. It's white florals, it's yellow florals, and it's that resinous sort of vanilla musk as well in the dry down. It's quite a typical fragrance profile for a summer fragrance, this, isn't it? So this to me is really dominated by lily. Lily is the primary note in the beginning of the fragrance. It also has a ylang ylang and also some jasmine, but the lily is the dominant thing really. I think lily is something that not everybody loves in fragrances, and also as this dries down, the musk is actually pretty dense. This fragrance definitely has texture. It's not a smooth fragrance, and I don't know whether that's some kind of aroma chemical perhaps, or whether just it's quite maybe a laundry style kind of musk, but I did actually really enjoy this fragrance overall, and I didn't find it soapy really at all. I don't think that I would want to repurchase this. I wouldn't want a bottle of this. And actually with trying this fragrance, it really made me realise just how much I wanted another fragrance that was on my wish list already that I just kind of put to the side and not bought. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Why am I settling for a fragrance that I don't think is as nice as the one that I actually want? So I went out and I got Guerlain's Terracotta to replace Fleurdenya. And I really, really love Terracotta, and I think it's a little bit nicer than Fleurdenya, even though it does have some slightly different florals. I just think this one's just so much more me. So yeah, I'm happy with Terracotta, but I am also pleased that I got to experience Fleurdenya by Francesca Dell'Oro. So the next fragrance is one from Chloe, and this is Nomade. This is just the standard EDP format of Chloe. So this fragrance, I wore it to work loads because it's just one of those clean, no nonsense kind of fragrances, suitable for every occasion. It's a very universal signature scent kind of fragrance. I think it's actually one of the best scents of the last sort of 6-7 years. I think this is very, very good for a designer fragrance, and I think it really stands out as quite different, especially for Chloe, who are really known for super girly kind of fragrances, really kind of light roses and things like that, and this is not that. So this is really a modern, chicer fragrance, and it does have a lot of oak moss in it. I think if you struggle with oak moss, you might struggle with this one. The oak moss, along with the freesia in this fragrance, makes this quite a soapy fragrance overall, but it opens with citrus, also the oak moss, also the freesia, but also some peach. The peach here smells almost more like a peach skin rather than something juicy or fruity. And actually as this dries down, it's weird, but the pink rose pops out in the dry down along with some creamy woods and also a sort of pine needle kind of woodiness really in the dry down. I think this one is just very fresh, very clean and absolutely perfect for work. So this one was quite strong. I don't think you need many sprays of this really, and it also did last a long time. Probably nearly a whole working day, not quite to the end of the working day. I think I did sort of end up respraying this when I got home sometimes. I think this fragrance is really nice, but I think I've worn this so much that I'm kind of over it now. I have been looking at the flankers of this fragrance though, because I don't necessarily want this one, but I wouldn't mind something with a bit of a twist on the original. I tried the new flanker, the Nuit d'Egypte one. I didn't really like that one. I might go for the Intense if I can find that to try again. I have tried it in the past, but it's a bit of a hazy memory. But yeah, I think the Intense one is the one that people tend to love, isn't it? So I might try that one next. So that's Chloe EDP. So the next fragrance is just a little mini, and this one is Acqua de Parma Colonia, and this is the Eau de Cologne version of Colonia. So this fragrance is really old. I think it came out in the 1910s, I think. And this fragrance is just a very classic barbershop style fragrance. But it is very refreshing, and I think it's quite nice actually for bed. I really like the opening of this. That's really my favourite part of this fragrance. It's really citrusy. It's like a really soft lemon opening, maybe even a little bit of a soft orange opening. And then as it dries, you get more of the aromatic notes. So it turns a bit soapier, and it also turns a bit muskier. So I think there's lavender and there's perhaps rosemary in this as well. And those just come off as pure soap to me with the musks. I can't say I really smell much of the rest of the fragrance. It's just kind of aromatic, it's floral, and the citrus notes dissipate quite quickly really, which I find a bit disappointing. And that's really why I wore it to bed. I just don't like it as much beyond the first about minute or so. It's just not really me, but I can see why this one's popular because it just is a very classic feeling fragrance. I might go and try some more Acqua di Parmas, but so far from the ones I've tried, nothing's really grabbed me. But I know that a lot of people love Acqua di Parma, and I feel like I should give them a little bit more of a chance. So that's Acqua di Parma's Colonia, and it's the Eau de Cologne. So the next fragrance is one from Marc Jacobs, and this one I've had since 2019. It's taken me 5 whole years to finish this bottle. This is Marc Jacobs Decadence, Oh So Decadent, and this is a 50ml bottle. So this fragrance I bought because I wanted something summery, and I just realised I had at the time a collection of very heavy, very dark kind of designer fragrances. And I tried this in store and I just thought it smelled kind of zingy and uplifting and fresh, and I just liked it. So this fragrance starts off with a kind of sparkly botanical gin vibe. So there's a tart green blackcurrant, there's pear, and then some watery florals. But there's also something that makes it feel kind of crystal-like and aquatic. And I'm guessing that's some ambroxan here, potentially. I think this fragrance really does remind me of Kenzo World, actually, so that would completely make sense. But also there's some raspberry as this dries down, and that really pops out. And actually, smelling this more recently, I really realised how much this fragrance makes me think of fragrances like Lalique's Amethyst, for example. It's not as strong on the berries as Lalique's Amethyst, but it definitely has that kind of similar feel in the opening of Amethyst, this one. If you smell this fragrance closer up when it's drying down, it smells like a musky, warm amber with some raspberry and maybe some blackcurrant. And I just find it quite addictive. Really, when I first bought this, I really thought it was more aquatic and I thought it was more green. It really used to make me think of almost a kitchen garden, this fragrance. But now I think more of that kind of botanical gin. I think this one's long discontinued and quite hard to find now. But even if I could repurchase it, I don't think I would. I think I've had this one so long, and really it's gone from being one of my favourites to being not one of my favourites. I think my taste has just changed a little bit. And I still have Kenzo World, which is still in the same kind of area as this one. So I think I'm good for this for now. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And that's Oh So Decadent by Marc Jacobs. So the next fragrance that I finished is a vintage fragrance from YSL. And I think this one is still available actually on the website. But I really wanted to try the vintage formulation because I know it has been reformulated. So I got a vintage partial bottle from eBay. And I think this had about 10 or 15 mils left. It wasn't a lot. But I finished this one off super quickly because I wore it to bed because I found it so comforting. And I also wore it to work a bit as well in the winter. So this one is YSL Cinema. And this one I was just really curious to try because I'd seen loads of people talking about it on YouTube and saying how, you know, it was their favourite fragrance of the time. So this fragrance is really a slightly powdery benzoin vanilla. So a resinous vanilla fragrance, but with a powdery feeling jasmine. And the jasmine is very soft and very indistinct. It's not something that really sticks out much, but that's probably the only white floral in this that I can detect. There's also some fruitiness, and that really pops out in the dry down more. There's something that could smell like apricots or could smell like peach. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's really it. It's basically just a resinous vanilla with some sort of slight floral, slight fruity touches to it. Not really much more than that. I really like this. For someone who's not really into vanilla fragrances, I thought this was quite different. And the thing I liked about this was the muskiness at the end. So the muskiness in this is like the muskiness that's in vintage Lancome Tresor. In Tresor, the muskiness sometimes is a little bit much for me. And Tresor is really famous for having galaxolide, musks in that fragrance. And I think there might be galaxolide in this fragrance because I get the same kind of texture from this fragrance. Galaxolide to me smells almost like cigarette ash, but clean cigarette ash, if that makes any sense. It's definitely got that texture, or cigarette smoke almost. It's kind of powdery and dense, and it's very distinctive. If you smell a vintage bottle of Tresor, you will know it instantaneously, and I think that's in here. So YSL Cinema I really did enjoy, but I don't think I'm going to go and seek another bottle of this out. I have seen other bottles of this, vintage formulations, and they do go for a lot of money. I think this is pretty much the only reasonably priced bottle I've ever seen of this. But yeah, I think considering, you know, this is now 20 years old, this fragrance, I'm not going to seek out another bottle. If I do see the new formulation, I will sniff it, but I don't think I'm in love with it enough to try and find it again. So that's YSL Cinema. So the next fragrance I bought after watching my favourite film and seeing this on a dressing table in the hotel room, and I had to know what the main character smelled like, so I bought the fragrance. And that film came out in 2003, and this fragrance came out in 2001 and has been long discontinued, so it was really, really hard for me to find, but I did find it eventually. So this is Marc Jacobs by Marc Jacobs, and this is a really watery, aquatic feeling, green, but white floral, sweet white floral fragrance, but not a dense white floral, more of a watery white floral. I would say for me this is mainly gardenia and also some sweet honeysuckle here, but really it's the watery greenness that you get overall. And it's also a little bit metallic even, this fragrance. I think this fragrance just is of that time. When I think back to what I was wearing around 2003, 2004, 2005, I was actually wearing watery florals. I was wearing Beyond Paradise by Estee Lauder, and that it really is in the same scent family for me as this fragrance, I think. So clearly I was channeling Charlotte then. But yeah, I'm really pleased just to know how Charlotte smelt, and I did enjoy trying this, but I can't say that this is necessarily me nowadays. I think even if I could purchase this one, I wouldn't run out and buy it. I think also this has probably suffered through time, because if you look at this bottle, it's just not in the best nick, is it? I mean, I can still spray it and stuff because you just press there, but it just doesn't look the most attractive. It's a little bit rusty around the edge here, and I think, you know, this one's had its day. But yeah, this is so rare now, and they go for so much money secondhand, and I was so lucky to find this, to be able to try it. So that's Marc Jacobs by Marc Jacobs. So the next fragrance is one from the Body Shop, and this is Vanilla EDT, and I bought this really in a fit of nostalgia because I wanted to re-smell the Body Shop vanilla fragrances because they've been reformulated and they just weren't smelling how I remembered them in store. So I bought this one, and this just took me right back, really. For me, this is not pure vanilla. This is something that smells almost a little bit floral, almost like you're smelling the vanilla orchid, and that smells of vanilla rather than just straight up vanilla. I wouldn't say this is the deepest, richest vanilla I've ever smelt. You know, the Body Shop aren't an expensive brand. I wouldn't expect this to be the creme de la creme of perfumery, but I did really enjoy this, and I wore this quite a lot to bed. I do tend to wear vanilla a lot to bed, not quite so much during the day. I think, you know, this would be pretty hard to find again, but now the Body Shop's gone into administration and is now going through this process of closing most of their store and trying to restructure and be saved. I bet a lot of people are looking for these vintage Body Shop fragrances, so I was really pleased to jump in before it went into administration and buy this one. So yes, I wouldn't buy it again, I can't buy it again, but I did enjoy the nostalgia of using this one. So that's the Body Shop EDT. So that's the final fragrance in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know, have you tried any of the fragrances I've talked about in this video? Which fragrances have you finished recently from your collection? I'd love to know. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.